Everyone that comes in contact, like for me, I'm grateful that you did because I got to experience this version of you that's inspiring, that rubs off on everyone else, right? That gets them to believe that they can do something that they didn't prior think that they could do. That really only comes from pain, purpose, prosperity. So it's a requirement of it. And so we have to embrace it. And I've had to do that. I embrace it now. I'm proud I'm an addict. It's one of my greatest unique characteristics. Now, it has to be contained and managed. Otherwise, it's
bad news.
Misery for you and everyone around you.
Best friends that are legit in jail right now.
Right. But I bet a little change in belief, they got a $10 million business.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
What up, y'all? Welcome back to the Creatures of Habit podcast. I'm sitting across the table from a guy that I am super fired up to have on the show. His name is Vince Pitstick. He is a functional master. He has created a business called Vidal. Is it Vidal?
There's Vidal Enterprises, which has health coaching clinics, medical clinics, all dedicated to a process of functional nutrition and medicine.
So literally, it is the largest. I'm not exaggerating. I'm being honest here. That is the largest one-on-one functional health coaching business in the United States of America. And Vidal is, like Vince just said, it covers a wide span of ways to dive into the world of functional medicine, functional nutrition, and really functional living. And the way I like to describe that is sort of the antithesis of like what we know as medicine today. This is like the exact opposite of what we're taught growing up.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're sick, you go to the doctor. Yeah. That's what we're taught, right? If you're sick, you go to the doctor. Something hurts, you go to the doctor. They typically have you wait in an office or a waiting room for an hour and a half post the time that you're supposed to be there. The doctor sees you for about 7 minutes, touches your lymph node, your glands, makes you step on a scale, fully dressed with like your bag on. Right? Like they're not like, they don't actually care about your weight, but they have you get on a scale fully dressed. You're typically 10 pounds heavier with all your clothes on and your shit on. And so they don't really care about that. And they look at your tonsils, stick something in your ear, tell you to follow the light on your eyes. And then they typically say, everything's okay, don't worry about it. And like that's how we have grown up in this country. And so functional medicine and sort of living a functional, holistic lifestyle is very, very different. There are ways to change that feeling of sick, right? Like we feel sick because a lot of us don't take any precautionary measures to sort of live our life in a healthy way, right? Like we wait to get sick to go to the doctor. And so some have called our traditional healthcare system sick care, not healthcare. Anyway, that was a long-winded way of introducing my new friend, Vince. I'm really excited to have you on the show, man.
Hey, thanks a lot. Really glad to be here. I think it's going to be a very useful, actionable 30 minutes with you or however long it goes.
Well, Mike,
I'm known to maybe go longer.
I'm down.
Okay.
So why don't you give us a little bit of a background so we have some credentials for you?
Yeah, easy. So I actually started out, my credentials started certified by life. I was struck with a very rare condition, born on a farm at 7 years old, very rare form of OCD. They didn't know that at the time though. So it was just diagnosed as behavioral disorders. Like I was just bad acting out. A lot of trauma in the home. So we found out later it's a mixture of the chemicals I was exposed to growing up, playing in the cornfields, everything that was going on, mixed with family home trauma that led to like illness through my early years, even in my teens and then into my 20s. So I ended up, falling out with the conventional medical system very early because most of them either said I had behavioral problems or they wanted to stick me on a bunch of psych meds. And for anybody who doesn't know how scary these meds were, I'm showing my age here, but this is like 32 years ago. I would walk into these psych rooms and these kids would be, and I'm not kidding you, they'd be like drooling in the corner, nodding all crazy and like, not that the kid was, but it was like the meds were, because I'd be watching these kids come into these offices, and my parents were also fighting. So I had to see 2 of everybody for the lawyers. So now I'm going to one, psychiatrist that's trying to get dirt on the other one. It was just a thing. It was a rough time. My parents actually grew up to be great people, by the way. We have a great relationship. This is not a woe is me story, right? This is definitely like a hero's journey. And my first certification, which for anyone really begins by life. After that, I go through that entire process. I get better. I actually, though, found self-medicating. So I got heavily into drugs and became addicted to drugs. Cocaine was my preference and other things like that to self-medicate. So then I had to go through the 12-step technology, as in learning about spirituality, and then learning about tools that I can use to help rewire my brain, because that's what that is.
When was that?
So I battled it pretty heavy from 20 to 30. Yeah, you started at 15, really got bad at 20s on, What's happening during this entire time, though, is I'm being introduced to, when I was looking for doctors and we started looking in the holistic space, I started getting introduced to alternative medicine, is what I'm getting at, from a very early age in many different areas of life: physical, spiritual, emotional. And these are all alternative, right? Because they're not anything that your doctor is going to recommend
or prescribe.
And yet this is where all my recovery came from, because once I started to get older and change my nutrition, work with some of the right doctors, really got my head straight in recovery, everything went away from me. I'm still a little OCD, of course. Like, it just, part of my personality is actually an advantage later in life as an entrepreneur. If you learn how to harness it, it's a great tool. So everything in my life, though, is now predicated around how to harness my addictive tendencies to be successful in life for me and for others, which is the whole entrepreneur kind of life. Like, Dr. Patrick Carnes talks a lot about in his book, A Gentle Guide to the 12 Steps. He talks about how addictive patterns, all of our patterns are basically addictive for the most part, driven by dopamine. And so you can connect entrepreneurship and overlay it with modern drug addiction or cocaine addiction or internet porn or whatever. And the brain firing sequences are almost the same. And it creates holes where we're not using parts of our brain. So that's where all of my pattern development, my morning routines, everything, and the stuff that I instill in my clients, that's where a lot of that stuff comes from, because I lived it.
Well, I just to say a quick note on that, I tend to say, like, addicts are typically looked at through a lens of like a waste of space, right? Like, oh, that's scum of the earth, useless, dirt, whatever, criminal. The thing that people don't really understand, and I do and you do, I'm on the other side of it as well as you are, like, they're some of the most loyal, dedicated humans on the planet. Like, what they will do for the next drink or the next drug is by far and away more severe than what a normal person would do to get their job promotion, right? So you strip away the drugs and the alcohol from the addict, and then you have this person who is just inherently, like, dedicated human, like, understands what it means to, like, fucking give up your life for the cause.
For the cause.
Yeah.
Which is where this goes, because people don't understand how a personal trainer becomes the owner of an entire health network that is now trying to change the game of fitness and health, because it doesn't make sense. The first thing that people are going to think about is, like, okay, is he a doctor? What kind of specialist is he? Who gave him permission to be where he is? Because that's what we're going to think, to place credentials, to me, this is why I should listen to this person. And that's very little the reason you should listen to anybody. It should be about their wisdom and their commitment to something and how long they've been doing the thing that you want to know about.
100%.
And so when you say what you say, so for example, whenever I have a nonprofit program where we redefine addiction as an individual of greatness with the wrong beliefs and actions to meet their needs. So that alcoholic that's going to, or let's talk about a drug addict, that's going to wake up homeless. The first things on their mind is, if I don't get drugs, I'm going to die, because it's what it feels like. And so then you just get up. You have no way. You have no evidence. You have no money in your hand. You got whatever clothes on your back, wherever you are, in whatever environment, and you're going to figure out how to get that $30 and get high. And then you're going to do it the next day and the next day. And you're going to do it for 5, 10, the addicts lose decades. So 10, 20, 30 years. I want people to strip away everything from the drugs and the unpleasantry side effects of addiction, because we usually define people by their actions, but it's a symptom of the addiction. So like lying, cheating, stealing, we could be like, well, that's a bad person. Well, would you get mad at someone for having the shivers because of a cold? That's a side effect of the cold.
Right.
So you have to look at it. Now, people still have to own up for their own stuff. I understand this. But when we strip away, bring back the humanity to it, and you look at a person as a child that was a baby and is now grown up, and you strip away everything else, that undeniable commitment to figuring it out no matter what, you could learn something from them. And that's why when I sat in the rooms for all those years, listening to people that I thought I had nothing to relate to them, that's where I learned how to become successful. Because that determination, once, again, the belief of the drug addict is, I need the drug to make me feel better. So guess what? All their actions are going to be around getting the drug to make them feel better. But if you get rid of the belief, because you'll find out, I didn't need the thing I thought I did, which is 90% of what people are doing today. The thing they think they need is not what they need. They're chasing something just like the alcoholic is chasing the alcohol.
Right.
They're all chasing something that they actually don't need. It's based on a false belief. Once I remove that belief and I put something in its place that's positive and greater than themselves, they become unlimited. So the same 12-step program that gets you off alcohol is the one that can actually bring you massive abundance. So in my entrepreneurship programs, or even in my healing programs, that's what we start with, is all the beliefs. Because I had to believe that I could get better as a kid with OCD. I did not believe until one day I met this one therapist who totally did things outside the box. We played chess for 3 months and never talked about a thing. And then he started introducing ideas and showed me that if I focused on the chessboard, all my thoughts went away, no matter how bad it was. And I go, wait a minute, I've been in charge the whole time. I don't have to choose to be a sick boy anymore. Anybody can do that at any time. They just need to be put in the right environment, shown how to do that.
With intention.
With intention,
Right.
right? And so the reason I'm sharing all that is because then for me, once that was stripped away, and then my goal became helping people who were lost, like no one knew what was wrong with me. And maybe many of you out there have something that's been going on with you, or you know someone, because millions of Americans, every health category of illness is growing at unprecedented rates in American history and globally. Doesn't matter if you talk to NATO, NIH, American Heart Association, it doesn't matter what it is. By 2030, 7 out of 10 Americans and globally will have some form of lifestyle disease that will take away significant parts of their vitality, health, and longevity. They're going to live much shorter. The average Americans just cut back another couple percent. We're back down to like 74 years, which is unprecedented.
Wow.
Right? So I know I'm hitting people with a lot of things.
That's so scary.
Right? Right. But the reason I share all that is because that commitment then, once I got over that and I learned all these things because of my certification by life, I became committed to helping other people. I decided to start that journey as a trainer because it was the easiest way to get started. And I was in school, like trying to get finance. And I'm in school and the financial collapse was happening. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm getting this finance degree and I don't want it. And I don't want to take your money. No one's going to give me money. and I don't even know what I'm going to do with it once you give it to me. So I was like, let's go do the thing I know how to do, which is change lives. Right? And so just start as a trainer. Well, I built a really big program outside of Chicago, which is why I said I'd never been to New York. This is my first time, which is super cool. And I built this program. In this healthplex that I was in, there was chiropractor, Reiki, hormone specialist this is 18 years ago now. They were all in the same office or like healthplex. And what I realized was that when people were coming to me as a personal trainer, they actually had all these other problems that they thought that working out was going to solve. And me being a problem solver, I'm like, listen, I'm going to put everything together that you need. Let me organize this for you. Because what you think you need, you don't understand what it takes to actually get where you want to go. And most people don't. And so that's why at our clinics, a lot of times we're dealing with weight issues, but it turns into discovering they have autoimmune, PCOS, this or that or whatever, because they don't understand why they have the weight issue. You see what I mean? So you become a solution center, right? Not just a delivery of one modality.
Yep.
Like if you go to a chiropractor, imagine that every solution to your problem is going to be an adjustment. No offense, I love some chiropractors out there. You go to a hormone specialist, somehow magically every problem that you have is going to have to do with taking hormones.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily a complete solution, is it?
Sure.
So I wanted to become a solutions place. So coaches that could guide people and coordinate all the things together could be better. So as a coach, I added nutrition supplementation, and then you bought my program as a membership. So you get chiro, you get the hormones, you get the labs, at least the hormone specialist. And we put that together. Well, it attracted the eye of a global health organization called Metagenics. And they do a lot of functional medicine research. Dr. Jeffrey Bland, who's the creator of IFM, was one of the lead practitioners there at the time. I got to train under him in San Clemente,
So you
California.
put this together, you kind of like walked right into this thing and saw the writing on the wall and just actually executed.
Because when I was sick, I needed nutrition. I needed activity. I'm telling you now, I'm not better without fitness. The gym was one of my main things that helped me grow out of the conditions that I had.
Me too.
Right? And
I would say the main thing.
Yeah.
For me.
For me, I got the gym before I got sober. Mm-hmm. And it was a place where I almost stayed sober. The gym wasn't enough, but it almost was, because it was where I got my start.
Yeah.
And it showed me that I could be good at something instead of being a complete F up.
That's what it did for me, and that's what it does for me every day.
Right. And so the gym, nutrition, then therapy, then some other holistic health services to help with some of the stuff that I had going on. So I already knew that how to solve a problem was never found in one modality, right? So if I've got a distended gut, I'm probably eating the wrong foods, but I'm probably not in a caloric deficit. I'm probably not getting enough activity, right? I might be inflamed. I might need to look at my blood work, maybe get my insulin more sensitive. There might be a couple things that I need to do, right? Okay, well, how are you going to coordinate a dietitian, personal trainer, doctor, therapist? How are you going to do that? No one's doing that.
Right.
You're going to go to Cleveland, everyone gets a Cleveland Clinic. It's not real. That's why the medical system doesn't work, because how they solve problems. The Western medical system says there's 11 systems to the body. So guess what? You get thyroid. So you're going to be an endocrine, and I'm going to be GI. Stay in your lane, and I'm going to stay over here, and everything's going to be great, because you're going to get your money, and I'm going to get my money, and then everyone can get their money. That's the logic behind the Western medical system. The problem is, once you've had a problem that goes more than 6 months, it's now chronic. Mm-hmm. It's in more than one system. So for us to be truly effective to Mrs. Jones, let's say she does have a gut issue. It actually usually involves the thyroid too. So she's got to see you, and somehow she's got to find her way to me. How's she going to do that? You know how hard it is to live life in general?
And then maybe you have a disease like I have, which affects like legit everything. And you never know where it's coming from.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait, because how did a personal trainer figure out how to solve Lyme on a massive scale? This is that story. Because
you figured out how to solve it?
Absolutely. We actually have a program right now that if somebody's dealing with chronic Lyme disease, I will guarantee within a 4-month time frame that you will have significant results, or we work with you for free till we do. Anyone in the country listening to this right now, if you have a rare and unexplained condition, reach out to me and I'll take it on. And if I can't solve it in an amount of time, I'll work with you for free, because it's just a matter of time. No one offers that, because what we have figured out. And the way I figured out is because I'm an addict and I'm obsessed as hell, and I've done nothing else for the last 20 years of my life, right? So just to help people understand, most of the people that are best in certain industries are not classically trained in that industry.
I also want to just say something that I'm so like grateful you said. When we kicked off, I was like, all right, give us a little bit about us. Tell us about your credentials. And I think the best answer I could have ever asked for or wished for was certified by Life.
Yeah.
Because I am too certified by Life, right? Like I didn't even go to college. And for me, if you're not learning on the job, if you're you could go somewhere and study your ass off and feel like you've got all this content and information. But I promise you, getting an MBA in finance and then getting thrown on the stock market floor on Wall Street is going to be a rude awakening, friend. You know, like going to culinary school. I did go to culinary school. Going to culinary school for me, and then doing stages and like working in fine dining restaurants, but then actually having to go and like work in a real kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ass kicked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like ass kicked, thinking I knew some shit. Yeah. So I just wanted to point out that I really appreciate that.
And
because
those are always the people that you actually want to know, because those people can add wisdom to the education. What was the saying is like, because classically trained usually leads to logic rather than wisdom, although wisdom, it can over time. So like it's like logic or education is knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like, so.
I've never heard that, but I fucking love that.
Yeah. So a lot of times when you talk to someone who's really smart at one thing, like a children's heart surgeon, yes, that should be the only thing that you do. And I know a great one, by the way.
I know a great one too.
Yeah. And God love them. Rocket scientists, listen, you should only know that. However, everything outside of that, especially when it comes to healing, it's more of a trade school application. You learn by doing it and getting in and knowing about a lot of things to bring them together, because the body is a complex system, and you have to know how to solve complex systems, like the problems to complex systems. But it's called a specialization. So the more specialized you get, the less relative you get to most people's problems.
Right, because they can only hit you up for one thing.
Exactly. And so it becomes the expert's curse. And so the more that you get more expert, the more your paradigm gets smaller, which is why you'll get crazy, insane, stupid answers out of the smartest people when they're trying to translate it to something else that's not relevant. That's why a lot of times we want to talk to the specialist for our general problems. It's like, no, we don't. Like, you want to talk to someone who literally works on the general problems all the time. Who does the exact thing that you need to be solved, right? And so that's why I have a problem a lot of times with the misinformation, or we're getting our information from people who really don't know or don't do the thing that you're asking them to do.
So you've identified this component of like the healthcare system in the United States as really sort of fractured and totally compartmentalized and very, very hard to get real results, because you're typically sent to a specialist maybe based on blood work, but maybe just based on a recommendation from your general practitioner, and it's probably the wrong person, and they're not the only thing that I can really correlate to this is like, I'm running a small company right now. The core team is 5 of us. And then we have like 6 agencies around us.
Yes.
We communicate a lot together. We are in communication.
Yes.
But the paid media agency needs to know what the content creation agency is making, and they just don't communicate. So it's a lot of this. Us to them, them to us to them to us, us to them.
Yes.
And it's just like that is just a fucking clusterfuck of pain.
How can we expect any human being to figure that out on their own when they don't feel well?
So how did you fix this? Or how are you fixing it?
Yes. So what happened then is I got picked up to go train out in San Clemente, California. And Metagenics has a Gig Harbor, Washington research facility too. And they have doctors that then go teach all their methods across the country and the world. And I got to train under a lot of doctors, and then I became the consultant. So here's the cool part. I became the consultant. Now, crazy part of this story is I'm still battling on and off a drug addiction here. So it's pretty wild being in doctors' offices, telling them how to help their patients.
Coming off like a
going home
bender.
on a bender. Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I mean, it's who I am.
Absolutely.
It's part of my story. When you're a functional medicine consultant, anytime a doctor runs into a problem trying to apply holistic medicine, herbs, whatever it is, cash pay services, how do I bill for this, whatever, guess what? You're getting the call. Okay. So I watched, NP, DO, it doesn't matter what kind of doctor. I was the guy behind them for many years. And so I learned how to solve every single condition through the lens of one modality and a certain practitioner. So I know how every practitioner is going to deal with arthritis, or every practitioner is going to deal with X, Y, or Z. And I realized that all of them were at a disadvantage because they only had their one modality. So their success rates were relatively pretty low. And most of those people got marginally better, but didn't get what they were actually looking for, which is restored vitality. Were they back in alignment, right? And so I started training health systems, like how you would bring in coaches to coach. So if you are like a hormone specialist, and listen, I'm not going to try to change the doctor. You've been doing this for 40 years. You don't want to do nothing different. Just keep slanging your hormones. Don't worry about that. Good. Do that thing, but then follow up with a coach that knows about everything else. And we'll train them so that they can do everything else and coordinate it, and then you can still keep doing your thing and you can make money off the coach. Doctors don't want to do it. They don't want to do it because implementing it, the getting your teams to do it, billing for it, it's just a mess. And it's not rewarded enough yet. It will be. Everything's going to be delivered by a coach sooner than you think. Nursing's on the way out to a certain degree, and you have outbound nursing, which will be coaching. It's all coming. Market forces are showing that on the research. But so I got tired of doing that. And so I went and got a health coaching certification. I got a certification for how you do what they call first line therapy, which is like work under a doctor, working all these different services. And then I kind of realized that, to be honest with you, I don't need anybody. Like I can actually run an online health service. I started working for some doctors on my own. So I broke out and I started with the back of a chiropractic office with 4 clients. And that was the start of Vidal Coaching, which then turned into the largest one-on-one functional health coaching company in the United States. And because I developed a method, I took everybody's stuff and I systematized it. So it's like if somebody came in and you didn't know exactly what was wrong with them, if you hit these systems in order, there's 11 systems of the body. And if you kind of touch them in a code, everything kind of falls back in alignment. It's the same thing with working out. There's a certain way you work out. There's a certain way that you might do PT work that gets your body back in alignment. Very similar. When the body gets chronically inflamed, it's actually not that much of a mystery. It's a very similar thing. You got to turn one system on to get another one on. If you start with the one before that one, you're going to have a hard time and you got to go back. It's like growing a lawn. It's like if you never lay the seed first and you just water it or try to grow it in winter or don't irrigate it, you're going to end up with the same shitty lawn. So it's all about a system. And then touching the systems in the right order. And then all of a sudden, healing people is not so complicated. And so I applied the method and was able to scale it. And then doctors saw me do that and was like, hey, can you do that for my patients? So I had a big referral network. And then I decided to show other people how to do it. So we created the university. So a lot of my methods are in about 1,000 different coaching companies or clinics now. You don't have to be a licensed practitioner to do it the way that we do it, but you can be and use it in your practice. And so that's how it started. And then when I got bigger and I needed to maybe have medical, when I needed to maybe prescribe like peptides, hormones, compounds of any sort, because you might need medications in the beginning.
Sure.
I went ahead and opened my own endocrinology clinic. I got my own doctors and then we use their licenses. So they do that. So I do not treat or cure or prevent any disease in case anyone's listening. But the point of the matter is that if you work hard enough, you can eventually find someone to leverage their license if you really needed to. And I don't care how people think about that or whatever. It's happening all the time all over the country and nobody talks about it. So your job is just to build demand, build processes, and then the people will come that you need to fill in the gap.
Yep.
And so that's what we did. So now we have health coaching centers that are online and some are in person. And then we have, because I like to deliver everything through a health coach. And then if you need the doctor, they're behind them. Because the coach needs to be the one holding your hand. The doctor doesn't have time for that.
Yeah, and the coach is also going to look at you as like a whole person, not a sick person or a person with a problem necessarily.
Exactly. So you could like literally reach out to like Vidal Coaching, or I own a couple others that, whichever one, different brands, different faces to meet different needs, and come in and just fill in the intake forms. The coach is going to know what to do, right? And then we'll make sure that we get the right blood work and all the things sent to your home. The dietitians and team will review it along with your coach. Then they'll create you a whole program and put everything in place that you're going to need to get the actual outcome that you want, not just the service. So that's why at Vidal Coaching, we sell outcomes. We don't sell. You come, you buy the outcome.
Yeah.
And that's what we want, because we need certainty. When you get in the holistic world and you start trying a lot of things, you're going to fail a lot because you're going to learn. But that's a good thing, right? But we don't need you coming in here worried that it's not going to work. So
anyways, that's 99% of the population, right? Because they're just dealing with doctors most of their lives.
They're dealing with doctors most of the time. And then if they need to see the doctor, if they need a prescription or whatever, they go see the doctor.
Yeah.
And so anybody can do that from any country right now and get the help that they need on any condition from the comfort of their own home. This is the future, but getting people to get used to that has been the fight of my life. That's why I try to go everywhere I can, good book coming out, stuff like that, because I want people to get familiar with it. Oh, my neighbor tried this. Oh, I saw my friend on Instagram tried this. You got to get familiar with it before the early majority of people will go, oh, when I have a knee pain, you know what? I'm going to reach out to my coach. Or I'm going to reach out to the company and then have them put me a quick program together for it.
I mean, it's really, thinking about that, like that sounds like a very, very comforting sort of like supportive relationship to be able to have anything wrong with you and have a coach that is going to handle it, whether they're the one or they're the one that has the resources to bring everybody in to attack the problem. Having a person that is genuine, like, there's like your general practitioner or your, whatever, your primary care physician, GP, right?
Yeah.
They're not the person that you call when like, you've got a sore throat, right? Like they're not the person that you call when you wake up with like a tweaked neck. They're the person that you call when either you got to bear through your annual fucking physical or need something for work or are like feel like you're dying, right?
Exactly.
Like like before it's probably you call them after it's already a massive problem, right? I want to just take a beat for a minute, and I know you have a serious routine and regimen in your life. I want to just hear what your morning routine looks like.
So for me, again, the battle for entrepreneurship and trying to do this thing, because everybody tries to fight what we're doing, right? Like it makes everyone uncomfortable. So doctors don't like what we're doing on one hand because they, it's like they're unconventional. At the same time, people who have never used a service like this before are resistant. My entire life it's been a fight, right? To get it where it is today, and then to eventually get it, hopefully, to the world. Like I'm obsessed about this. I'm going to die doing this, like because it's one of the most important things that people don't know yet that they need. Until they're really suffering, and then they're crying for help, and now they're going to 18 people blowing $50,000 before they find me, and now you've got all these opinions and emotions built up, and I've got to break those barriers and beliefs just to get to heal you.
Got to re-break the horse.
Yeah, so it's all of that, right? So anybody who's listening that has a really big goal or whatever, I think the thing that to understand is that the best thing I can teach you is from my addiction recovery, because the war of getting where you want to go in life has less to do with the people outside of you and resources. It has everything to do with what's going on inside of you. And people are going to believe that that's not true. And I understand that because it seems like when you look outside that everything is against you, but really it's what you're seeing, right? So everything, I know, like, Hermosi and people don't have a morning routine, and a morning routine is for, losers or whatever the people want to say. I commit half of, and we have, 8 different businesses, it's many figures, and it's done well, right? I attribute almost majority of it to my morning routine because I make 35,000 decisions a day. Actually, every human does. I'm not special. But what position or perspective am I making those decisions from is everything about whether I have a great decision and a great life in 3 months or not. Mm-hmm. So I need to make sure I don't wake up and start driving drunk. So my very simple, for anybody, actionable steps, and when you wake up in the morning, it's move, feel, think, in that exact order. Everyone gets up, thinks, right, feels, and moves. It's a terrible idea because most people wake up neurotic, okay? They're worried about what they don't have. They're worried about not getting something done. When's the next shoe going to drop? We're in a fear state of mind. So then all of your actions are going to be looking at the worst case scenario of everything. And so then you're going to be making limited believed decisions. And then you're going to be listening to your close families and friends who are limiting beliefs too. And then your reality is shaped from it. So I'm always like, you got to move your body first to try to change your emotional state.
So what does that look like for you?
Well, so for me, it starts out with a combination of either I start with a stretch or a run. I don't run every single day because it's like my calves and my ankles. I don't try to do every day, but I usually go on a quick run. Or do I do a quick stretch? And then from there, I'm doing a small breathe routine, like 3 minutes, like a 4 square. Everybody can create their own like a breathe routine. Anyone listening to this, just take one. Don't try to like do everything I'm about to tell you, because I've been doing this for a lot of years and I'm like hardcore about it. So then I'm immediately then going into, okay, and after my breathing routine, I'm going into my gratitudes, because I got to focus on the things I've already got good in my life instead of what I don't have. Mm-hmm. Then for me, I've been taught
how are you executing on gratitude?
Gratitude is for all the things I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for like my house, my dog, cat.
You're having a mental gratitude list.
Yeah,
basically.
boom, 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 boom. And then I'm also getting into what might happen that's good. I could get this job. This could happen. That could happen. Because we're always thinking about the thing that won't happen. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the thing that's going to go bad? We're way better at looking for the thing that's going to go wrong than the thing that's going to go
much easier.
Right? So you have to exercise practicing the thoughts of hope. Mm. Then I immediately, and this is where my spiritual guideline comes in. And again, I want to thank God for the opportunity to be here, because I shouldn't be here. And Jesus Christ is my way. Anybody can take whatever way that you want. But I would suggest grasping for a spiritual life, or at least trying it. Even if you don't know, you don't have to know what the power is to tap into it, which is the best thing for me when I got started. It was like spirituality for dummies. But one of the things that I have to do is I have to make sure I get rid of my resentments. So I have to pray for 2 of my enemies, or people that I appear to be my enemies. So I do that every morning to make sure I'm getting rid of it. I'm not carrying any resentments in my day. For society, people, the BS that comes at you in business. People are shady at certain moments, unfortunately. And then after that, it's a couple prayers, and then I have a daily meditation. That's a spiritual one. I read real quick. I think about that. Then I'm either hitting my cold pleasure sauna at the house, and then I'm off to getting ready and doing my day. I usually hit, sauna cold plunge together. If I'm not training as hard, if I'm training really hard, I only do cold plunge. I try to get 11, 15 minutes a week. So that's my morning.
I love that. So we have like a very similar morning practice, very, very similar. And, there are times where I'm going a little bit harder. There are times where I have my non-negotiables that I just, no matter what, no matter where I am, I make sure to hit. It's like wiping my ass after I take a 2.
Yeah.
I have to do it, right? Like you wouldn't just get up and start walking out of the bathroom. This is a weird sort of derail from this, but I think you brought it up, and I'm going through something right now spiritually where I'm trying to see some things, and for years, because of the 12 steps, when you are put into that environment, they don't say you have to do anything, but a pretty powerful, strong recommendation on behalf of the whole 12 steps community is to find a power greater than yourself.
Yes.
So that you don't walk around thinking you are it. Right?
Yeah, that's the number one thing about spirituality or God is the first rule is you're not it.
You're not it, right? Like you can't be it. And so for me, I didn't grow up in a religious household. So like I just grabbed the bull by the horns there, and prayer is a massive, 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 massive part of the only thing that I've done, and I've done a lot of things consistently to build business and, my body and my marriage and family. But the one thing that I have done absolutely consistently wherever I am, no matter what, for the last 20 years is pray on my hands and knees. And I pray to God, and I say the same prayer every morning, and it's pretty long-winded, and I pray for a lot of people, those I love and those I hate, or maybe I shouldn't say hate, but those I struggle with. But recently, in the last year and a half, I've always thought of God as God. I try not to overthink it. I try not to dive too deep into it because it was never presented to me in any way as a secular thing as a kid. Like it just wasn't. And so, but recently, I've been very curious about Jesus. Super curious. I'm listening to an audio series right now about a guy who is like a well-recognized business person who has built a pretty significant business, never really shares about, or had before this shared about, his like passion for faith in Jesus and Christianity. And by the way, was very skeptical before he stepped into the Christian religion, like super scientifically skeptical, right? Like this is bullshit. There's no way. How can you believe all these things? Like, come on. And then he like spent years actually going through the Bible, and one story after the next, uncovering the truth behind them.
The one thing that I'll say about my success is that if I try to draw you a blueprint that was based on logic, and I think everyone leaves this out, which kind of bothers me about people telling their story about success. Even the people that are very analytical. They can say that they followed the data and made good decisions every day, but there was a point where they made a decision based on faith. And faith is really just the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. So all it is a bunch of days of hope strung together till chasing the dreams, and the evidence of things unseen is the visions that you're seeing in your mind, the inclination that you have that you could maybe kind of sort of do something. And where does those visions come from? And so eventually you string those together, you've got faith. So even people that say I don't follow God or I don't follow Jesus or whatever, if they're an entrepreneur and they've done something that they can't see, they have faith. They just need to apply it somewhere other than just to themselves. So it better be something greater than you, because that's where entrepreneurship gets toxic and addictive.
Yeah, I mean, I've never, and I have no problem saying this. I've built 2 businesses, exited successfully. I'm in the midst of building my 3rd business. It's going well. I have never made a decision based on data. I have never, not. Like maybe small little decisions that are going to be like very tied to a financial statement.
Yes.
But every business I've ever created, everyone's told me you're fucking crazy, dude.
Yep.
Like that does not work out on paper.
Yep.
There's no way. Yep. What are you doing?
Yep.
Like do the research, man.
Yep.
You know?
In fact, the last 7 months, I thought I had to grow up because I've got like a private equity partner. And I'll be honest with everybody, I'm taking a shellacking. Like, granted, it's churning around now, but I try to go, oh, I need to be an adult. Don't do it in my decisions by intuition anymore. You're getting into big money now. You have to be responsible, right? And before, what I do is I want the numbers. Somebody's got to be tracking the numbers.
Sure.
So I'm gonna look at the numbers. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna consult with God. I'm gonna say what my intuition is, and like, guess what? Those numbers look great. Here's what we're doing. And that's how I was able to take something, many businesses to the 8 figures or whatever. And I stopped doing that. And that's exactly when we talked about, there was a question that you asked that was on that sheet that was like, what is the habit that you stopped? And it was, I stopped listening to my intuition. And I started taking the numbers and the data and myself too seriously. And that was the biggest mistake that I've ever made. And I learned that lesson very heavily, that some of my childlike entrepreneur grit and just belief and making those decisions by intuition wasn't just childish. It was based on evidence of all the years I had made micro good decisions. And so trusting that intuition is not just logical, it's responsible.
Certified by life, dude. I'm going to steal that from you, brother.
Absolutely. Please, give it away.
I think, in my opinion, there's no better education than experience. It's just, there's no better education than experience. And, it sounds like you had some stuff as a kid. I certainly had some stuff as a kid.
Sure.
And, I get asked sometimes, would you go back and change it? And my answer is hell no. Hell no. I have no interest. And it was bad, dude. Like, it was not fun, going through some of the things. But at the end of the day, it has, I'm grateful. Because had those things not have happened, I can almost guarantee I'm not sitting here across the table from you talking about things that I'm really interested in as my job.
Yeah.
This is work. This is freaking work. I am so lucky. I'm so lucky. This is my job, or part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if I didn't deal with that stuff,
yeah,
chances are I would be pushing paper somewhere.
Same thing. Everyone that comes in contact, like for me, I'm grateful that you did, because I got to experience this version of you that's inspiring, that rubs off on everyone else, right? That gets them to believe that they can do something that they didn't prior think that they could do. That really only comes from pain, purpose, prosperity. So it's a requirement of it. And so we have to embrace it. And I've had to do that. I embrace it now. I'm proud I'm an addict. It's one of my greatest unique characteristics. Now, it has to be contained and managed. Otherwise, it's
bad news.
Misery for you and everyone around you.
Best friends that are legit in jail right now.
Right. But I bet a little change in belief, they got a $10 million business. You know what I mean?
So crazy, man.
Right? That difference. So anyways, but that's why, we have to be grateful for those moments. And the same thing is, I think everyone listening to this, whatever you went through, if you haven't gotten to the place of gratitude about the thing that you went through, then there's probably more work to do on yourself.
Sure. In winding this thing down, I really do want to ask you about the Lyme disease, because I think I've shared about my Lyme disease.
Did we jump far enough for you guys? Sorry. This is what happens, though, when an energy is good and we got great stuff to talk about.
The truth of the matter is that I could probably sit here and talk to you for 7 hours straight,
or
7 days.
Yeah, man.
I might have to come down to Tampa.
Dude, come back, or I'll come back at any time. You need an open spot, I'm here. Yeah, for sure.
I've shared about my Lyme stuff. 2017 was one of the worst years of my life, if not the worst year of my life, from not knowing I had Lyme, but dealing with all the Lyme symptoms and everybody telling me I was actually losing my mind, and it was a psychosomatic thing, and sent me to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist prescribed antidepressants. The whole thing. My mother, my wife, everybody was sick and tired of my complaining. Mm-hmm. My hands were exploding. I was getting like bumps on my knuckles. They were like, yeah, but your blood work. And I'm like, but I don't know what to tell you. My blood work is coming back normal. I'm telling you, I'm dying here. I am so fucked up. I can't function. And they'd be like, yeah, but you work out. And I was like, that's the only thing that I can do in the morning that makes me feel human or me. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I am a zombie. I can't move.
Yep.
I'm having panic attacks. I've got anxiety. I have the worst gut issues. No, I'm sorry, you can't see my gut issues, but I'm telling you I got them, I have insane inflammation. My knees are killing me. My hips are killing me. My joints, my lower back, my hands, my feet, everything is going nuts. Yeah. And finally, I met a functional medicine doc named Frank Littman, who looked at me for 5 minutes in his office and was like, "You've got Lyme disease." Yeah. And I was like, "Doc, I've had Lyme. I've been checked for Lyme 5 times." He's like, "Not the Lyme test I'm going to give you." Super sensitive Lyme test. Anyway, he's like, "I'm telling you, you got it. I'm going to send you to this little lab. It's not like a traditional Lyme thing. They don't do it in New York, but this one lab does it on 30th Street. Go there. Let me get the results." Get the results. Boom. Serious Lyme disease.
Yep.
Multiple co-infections.
Yep.
Mercury poisoning,
yes,
the whole thing.
Yes.
You know, I was like littered with all the things, right? And so that began my journey. And first he tried to zap it with antibiotics because he's like, "You probably have had this for a long time. Let's try to just crush it out of your system."
Yep.
That didn't work. Chelation therapy. I bought a infrared sauna, started using that daily. Obviously, tons of herbs and things like that. But the truth of the matter is that I have it under wraps. I've shared a lot about Lyme and a lot of people have responded to me in this kind of story about Lyme. So I'm really interested in hearing. I've really done a good job of keeping it at bay between cold and hot and what I eat, what I don't eat, staying away from dairy, staying away from gluten, staying away from refined sugar, like all the things. I'm doing all the fucking things.
I got you.
How are you going to
God kind of like, this is why at this moment I get giddy, because this is 10 years of obsessing on the rare and unexplained. Checking all the different clinics in the country, talking to all the different doctors, working 55,000 different cases, overseeing other doctors with other cases. Understand, remember, my first job was watching rare and unexplained cases from the background. So like my sample size is one of the largest that I know, right? Because of my consulting career. So remember I told you I'm like good at patterns. So like pattern recognition is probably what I'm best at. Like looking at a lot of things and being like, what makes certain things similar and how can we use those similarities to create cross.
OCD has anything to do with that?
Yeah, just a little bit, right? And so here's the interesting thing. COVID broke the case, brother. So 2020, they did a study on 500 people that had active SARS-CoV, and they tested them for Lyme and EBV. Over 80% of people tested positive for early antigen Lyme and EBV and did not have Lyme or EBV. Now, wait a minute. How is that possible? It's called molecular mimicry. So you could have come in contact, many people actually come in contact with a tick that has Lyme, but don't get Lyme disease. There are many people, mono, everyone's got mono, but only a few people get put out of school for 2 months. When you eat spinach that happens to have, too much staph on it or something like that, only 9 people get sick from it, but that's a problem.
Right.
Okay. But what we were seeing is long hauler COVID. So interestingly enough, the symptoms that you are describing from your Lyme are the same as long hauler COVID, EBV, Lyme, SIBO, autoimmune disorders. All of them have the same symptoms. By the way, women that go into menopause that have rare and unexplained conditions have all those symptoms. What do all of those have in common? They all have immune systems that get out of control. So one of the things that we couldn't figure out when we were working these cases with our teams was we were trying to watch an EBV level or a Lyme level, like Babesia, Lyme, like you're watching these co-infections, CMV, and you're watching them to try to explain if you're improving the recovery or not. Well, molecular mimicry shows us that your body can show an antigen of something you don't have an active infection for. So very similar, like if you have a cold, you can show up for Lyme. If you have, because of molecular mimicry. Okay,
it's the immune system putting out.
Right. You can't feel antibodies like that. So like, for example, if people have Hashimoto's, they feel their thyroid being really low. And usually a higher TPO level would indicate how bad you feel. But after you go on support and you deal with the root problem, your TPO level could be whatever you want and you don't feel it. So what we discovered, and I'll take you through a full training, and if you even want, I'll work with you for free. And I'm telling you in 12 weeks time, you all heard it. When I change your life, the rest of it, whatever's left over. When I do, you'll just give me a commitment that you are going to tell everybody you know, because
You've got that commitment, brother. Let's do this.
Watch this. So we offer, like I said, 95% success rate, because I'm like, what am I looking at? Something's not right, because I'm the best in the world at gut, thyroid, whatever. I'm the best, and I'm solving these cases, and still 20% of people are coming back, it's worse. Or they're coming back and it didn't get better. Like, what is going on, right? And so this gets into learning about the immune system and how immunology works. And it's super insane and complex, but there are some things that started to happen. Human beings, kids getting diabetes at 10 years old should be impossible with just ho-hos and bonbons and all that stuff, by the way. Why women, 80% of women are autoimmune sufferers, 80% of long hauler COVID sufferers are women, 70% of rare and unexplained conditions are women. But men also get crossover with Lyme, type 1 diabetes, and a few others. So men can get caught in that crossfire. And it's always high performing men. So, you hear about Jimbo, who ran 5 miles a day every single day and never got sick, got COVID and died, right? It's because of it's a genetic predisposition to an upregulated immune system. So these people typically never get the cold or flu, right? Particularly in women. When's the last time you had a fever for cold or flu? It can always work a little different in men.
I haven't had a fever, I don't know, since I'm a child, maybe.
How did I know that? That's a little weird.
Yeah.
Why would I know that? I haven't been watching you. I don't know these things. It's because genetically, you have an upregulated, there's initiation and resolution phase. So I'm going to give people very short. If there's an immunologist watching this, he's going to go, no, but the basics are initiation phase, resolution phase. So you've got your killers and you've got your cleaners. So some people go out and start the war. They got the bayonets. They're out there running around. They cause all the inflammation. When you feel tired and you're swelling and you're getting rashes and hives, maybe random hair shedding, your knees hurt, you got no endurance, vitality's out the window. It doesn't matter what your hormone level is. You feel like crap. You could add testosterone or not. It might make you feel better for a little bit, thyroid hormone, whatever. So you get what's called hormone insensitivity. There's a million other things that happen. Gut issues. Why does everyone have gut issues? And then why does everybody have mercury or lead or whatever? Because everyone does, whether it with the mold or whatever it is. It's all the same pattern. What happens is once the immune system gets hyperreactive, it puts a suppression on the endocrine system and the lymphatic system. Remember systems? The lymphatic is your highway for getting rid of stuff. So if you have too much inflammation and oxidative stress, everything slows down. It's like all the lights just went down to 80%. So everything slows down. Your ability to metabolize typically fat, process food, digest, create energy, any metabolism, which is taking something and making it something else, slows down. So everyone's got heavy metals that's in your position. It could have been what caused it. Sometimes people get lead exposure, pisses off the immune system. There is some trigger.
The body's just not getting rid of shit.
It's not getting rid of it. So now what happens is those killer cells, you either start making irregular ones, or you make ones that no longer, they get damaged from too much, like it's called a cytokine storm. When it gets too hot inside your body, some of those cells get damaged and they start making irregular cells. These irregular cells then don't die and they sit in your system. They're called undead cells, senescent cells. It's a real thing. Look this up. It's called immunosenescence. It's a real thing. So what happens is once you get the initial shock, the initial initiation, whatever it was very real. Maybe it was the tick, but I guarantee you didn't have the spoon.
I didn't.
Which is very weird, right? I've seen the spoon. I've seen classic. Most people don't have classic, okay? So you had something that triggered it, and it was probably multiple things. It probably wasn't one thing, okay? Multiple things with high stress, high on the go. Maybe you were a caffeine addict or something, like pounding stimulants, right? And then going in the gym all the time. That will actually suppress your immune system a little bit. But then once you get an infection and you have a certain genetics, it'll make it overactive. So now your initiation phase, you're making killers on the field all the time, but you're not making enough of the healers, the things that go heal the damaged cells, the ones that clean out the bad cells, that clean off the war front. So you can't heal. You just stay stuck in this spot. If anyone's listening, I know where you're at. Swollen, I'm tired, I'm bloated, my weight's not dropping. What we found out was we put CGMs on all these people. like continuous glucose monitors, not your fasting glucose. Because you look in your blood work, your immune system isn't in your blood.
Right.
It's in your body. It's your tissues. 80% of it's there, especially your lymphocytes, which is your adaptive immune system, which is what's out of control. So you can look at your blood work all day. Oh, this is the same. It looks fine. Or your fasting insulin or fasting glucose.
Yeah.
But your CGM, it's going to look at you're a diabetic. Interestingly enough, the people we put CGM in to get the cold or flu, they look like a diabetic. And it's called immunometabolism. When your immune system's upregulated, your sugars are all over the place. That's why your mood's off. Your nervous system's dysregulated. That's why you got the anxiety. It ain't coming from here. Anxiety doesn't come from your mind, by and large. It comes from your body. Your body's telling you something's wrong. Okay? So it was real. You knew something was wrong, and no one believed you. I know what that's like. I lived that for years. It's a very lonely place of personal growth. To transcend that when people just think it's a behavioral issue and you're being accused of something, and then you start thinking, what if it is me? Am I a fuck up? You start chiseling away at even the strongest mind.
100%. I fully believe that I was dealing with a severe case of hypochondria.
Yep. And then everyone listening too, they've been told a narrative. You're just fatter. You're not eating. You're over consuming your calories. You're not working out enough. You know, and sure, there's many Americans that are underactive and overfed. That is true.
So what do we do?
So what happens is you don't have enough of the immune cells that come heal everything. And they eat those cells out. They're called senescent cells, and they start to build in your body. So what's left over is not the initial thing. So we define things by the initial thing. Yeah, and you'll chase it as a narrative. It becomes your identity. I'm mold. I'm EBV. I'm Lyme. That's bad because it becomes an identity. And then that identity is what you chase because you have to fulfill what you believe. So you keep looking for more Lyme treatments. It's not Lyme anymore. The Lyme's gone, or even if there's antibodies there, you're not feeling them. What you're feeling is an upregulated immune system that can get stimulated by anything now. Because the immune system is everywhere. It's in every system of the body. So the one thing that's in every system is the immune system. So that's why you could do anything to one system, triggered it enough, and it would go everywhere. I work out too hard, don't get enough sleep. Now I'm sensitive to every food, and I don't know when or why. You're not sensitive. It's not the food's fault. Your immune system's oversensitive. I'll have you eating all food whenever you want in like 10 weeks. Anything that you want. It's not the food's fault. The immune system is just gnarly, and anything it sees twice or 3 times, or anything that's a little bit harder to digest, it's going to go, I don't like it.
You know what I think we should do? I mean, I think that I'm so intrigued by this.
I'm sorry, I know I'm going ham.
No, dude,
The end of the story is this. There's senescent cells, you've got to get them out of your body. Okay, there's ways through autophagy. That's why sometimes doing ozone at the same time, micro does it. But when you get inflamed, you're going to see how your sugars do weird things and how your body's still hanging on to some of those senescent cells. That's why they block messages. So like your hormones, you're not feeling them every day. You're not feeling the energy every day because they get in the way. They're like hot coals in there, and they don't transmit energy. They don't transmit messages. So there's these cells, and they know because they've been cutting open elderly, finding packets of like senescent cells in people, and they're like, what is this? And they don't believe it's in someone your age or someone who's 20 or they're even seeing it in kids now. And so the point of the story is that after the main condition is over, there's a 4-step process that you can do that will calm the immune system. And as soon as you bring your sugars down a little bit more, then you'll go deep into autophagy. And then we do different autophagy systems. It will eat those cells out. That could be fasting, keto, a couple different things. It will eat the rest of the cells out. And one day you're going to wake up and everything's going to be lifted. And I know it sounds crazy, but we do it. When doctors see what we're doing, they'll come work for me, or coaches, they'll quit their jobs. Once they see it, they're like, this is real. And that's why I can be so bold about it. It doesn't use car salesman.
I mean, I got to do it. I think so what I was going to say was a really cool thing to do would be to make a full-on 10 to 12 week long content journey around it.
I'm in, man.
You know, I feel like, because I'm always down to try some stuff. I mean, you said it, right? Like you chase the Lyme treatment. And for me, you know, like I've really kind of like, thank gosh and God that I've been able to step away from where I was in 2017 and 2018, where it really did fully consume my life, right? It fully consumed my life. It was brutal, and I thought I was dying. I thought I had cancer. I was like, I got really deep in the scares, right? Thank God I don't have anywhere close to those thoughts. And really kind of what I've chalked it up today is like I live with Lyme disease, and I do my best to keep it at bay by the habits that I conduct.
I'm done with that belief.
Okay, I'm in. You got me, dude.
Yeah,
that's
man.
it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Dude,
I can't wait. We'll show everybody.
It would be pretty cool to be able to launch this podcast with either half of the information or potentially 3/4 of the way of us walking this path, and me really sharing on a weekly basis where I'm at.
Brother, I am game, and I cannot wait. The Lord is going to do good work.
Amen.
It's not a hyperbole. It's someone who's just been doing this and is obsessed with exactly this. These stories, because like when I was in that place, I promised that if I ever met people in that place that I would do everything that I could, because I don't want to leave anyone there. No man left behind, because you know what it's like. And most people break, and you didn't break because you're a tough son of a bitch. Mm-hmm. But it brought you closer to God.
Did.
And then now you've got the commission. The commission is to what? Go help others, right? Because you have to. You come out of an experience like that. There's only one answer, right? You could have been left there.
What we're doing here now is 95 to 97%. I mean, there is 3 to 5% of me creating something for my brand here, but the majority of what I do here on this podcast is really, this is my way of trying to be of service at scale, right?
Yeah,
like really trying to share stories that I've encountered, experiences that I've encountered, and then inviting people on the podcast to share their stories, their experiences through decisions that they make on a consistent basis that have ultimately created freedom in their lives, right? It's not about fucking being happy all the time. It's not about being like the best. It's about like having a sense of freedom in your life and not looking at fear as the enemy, rather looking at fear as the magnet to success. Because I just believe that, right? Like you've gone through a lot of shit that was painful and scary. You got on the other side of it and you found this freedom. I've gone through a lot of shit that's painful and scary, fear evoking, sometimes crippling, but like the bison, you know, I choose to run at it as fast as I can because I know, and you know, and probably at this point, a lot of people that listen to this podcast know, there's only one thing on the other side of fear. And that's fucking freedom.
That's right.
It just is. Fear is the greatest thing God's ever given us, right? Like fear is, in my opinion, without it, there is no glory. You know?
Yep. If anybody else is feeling the way has been moved by this, I mean, we're not that salesy, but we definitely want to just provide you insight on what you're going through. So you can reach out to me at Vince_Pitstick. It's like an Australian deodorant, Pit and Stick, on Instagram, or you can go to vidalcoaching.com. But you can just send us a message about what you're going through. And I guarantee you I can understand, and at least you can feel heard and seen, and we can point you to some resources because you don't have to do it alone. And then if you decide, you know, you can come and get support and have someone do it with you. And that's what we do best. So,
dude, I was going to ask you where we can follow along and engage, where the audience can do that. So you did that. So thank you. Dude, this was such a great convo. Your energy is infectious. And, you know, I've got to hop on a train back to upstate New York. Unfortunately, I'm going to be sitting on a train for 2 hours and 20 minutes, like buzzing because of how excited. And the energy is just real, man. And I can, your passion is, like obvious is an understatement. It is like, you could feel it in the air, dude. It's really strong. And so
same, man. That's because certified
by life, man. I mean,
there
that's
you go.
You know, that's certainly 100%.
And that's what you feel when you meet someone like that. You're like, oh, okay, you're one, and then you know, man. Awesome,
thank you,
brother.
man. Thank you.
For sure. Thanks for having me,
guys, gals, everyone from here to there and everywhere. What an epic episode of the Creatures of Habit podcast. I was really excited to meet Vince. I had some friends. He had posted something on social media earlier today saying that he was coming on the show, and I had a bunch of friends DM me. A really close friend of mine who was actually my bodybuilding coach for years DM me and say, "Holy shit, Vince is coming on the show. You gotta." And so I just, you know, really excited, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I get to meet people like this to share with us their wins and share with us, you know, things that they've applied to their lives that have given them the seat they sit in through no shortness of hard work, but ultimately just, I really do feel blessed that I get to do this on a regular basis. And guess what? If you loved this podcast as much as I did, you can feel this energy by sharing it to your friends. Share this podcast with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with someone you're struggling with. Share it with everyone. Post it on social media. You know that this podcast is bringing value to your life. This specific episode is going to bring an enormous amount of value. And also reach out to Vince and follow him on social. And if you're like me and you've struggled with some of these things that we've just talked about, I don't have to think any further in my sort of journey of trying to figure out what I should do to help me get out of this place or help me keep these things at bay. Like, you could just sense, I'm sure, through your headphones, the energy and the passion that Vince has for this. So, a 5-star rating and a review would be fantastic. I appreciate you for that. And I love you and I appreciate you. You listening to and subscribing to this podcast means the absolute world to me. It helps us grow. It helps me get the word out for Creatures of Habit. And, I love nothing more than sharing my experience with you guys, with the hopes that, it brings a smile to your face and makes you a better human. So until the next one, y'all, peace.